Today's class is about PCOS. PCOS is very important topic, not only for practical exam but also in theory exam. Any question can come from PCOS. Okay, what is the full form of PCOS? Polycystic ovary syndrome. So basically this is a syndrome, right? So what is it? Definition of PCOS. PCOS is basically a common endocrinopathy in females of reproductive age group, and it is associated with oligoovulation or anovulation, excess androgen, and or polycystic ovaries. That is USG diagnosis, right? So it can be associated with other symptoms also, metabolic syndrome like dyslipidemia, insulin resistance, hypertension, and endometrial hyperplasia, cancer, type 2 diabetes mellitus. These are other complications that can occur in a PCO patient. So diagnosis of PCO. What is the diagnosis of PCOS? This is a very important criteria which you all have to remember. Diagnosis of PCOS. Any two of the three. Okay? What are the three criteria? Two of the three criteria. Which are those? Clinical and or biochemical hyperandrogenism. Second, oligo or anovulation. Third one is polycystic ovaries. The third one is actually diagnosed by ultrasonography. Okay? So if any two of the three criteria is present, then we will stamp it as a PCOS. PCOS is basically a diagnosis of exclusion. Okay, you have to exclude all other differential diagnosis that corroborates with the symptoms and signs of polycystic ovaries. So we have to carefully take the history of the patient and do some routine investigations. Okay, I will discuss this later on. First of all, we have to understand and what is the etiology of PCOS. Basically, exact etiology is not well known. Okay, so it can be multifactorial or polygenic. Why it is called polygenetic? Because we have seen if mother or sisters are suffering from PCOS, maybe she can have PCOS. Okay, in first degree relative, there may be some history that they may have got PCOS. So she may suffer from PCOS. So history is also important. And the incidence is, you may understand, the incidence is gradually increasing from before. In gynecological OPD, we will face so many patients coming with a similar problem. Some is having oligomenorrhea, amenorrhea, such menstrual irregularities, weight gain, such problems are there. And androgen excess problem like hirsutism, we face so many patients like this. Okay, so how will you deal with it? So first of all, you have to understand the pathophysiology of PCOS. What is the pathophysiology of PCOS? Sometimes it comes as a long question. Okay, so understand it properly. So pathophysiology is basically, first pathophysiology I will try to explain is gonadotropins. There is problem in hormonal imbalance. There is somewhere hormonal imbalance. That's why this problem is occurring. So what is the first hormonal imbalance occurring? Altered GnRH pulsatility. So the GnRH pulse, there is problem in the altered GnRH pulsatility, leads to preferential production of luteinizing hormone than that of the FSH. Means LH to FSH ratio is increased. Okay, sometimes it is 2:1 or more than that, but it is not in every patient. It is in 60% of patients. Okay, so in all patients you will not get such problem. When you are doing LH to FSH ratio, it is not like that everyone is having the deranged LH to FSH ratio, but in 60% of patients you might find that. Okay, understood? So there is altered GnRH pulsatility, so which in turn acts on the pituitary. In pituitary, what is happening? There is altered gonadotropin release. So sometimes there is increased LH than that of the FSH production, right? Understood? Next pathophysiology is insulin resistance. It is very important. Insulin resistance. Why it is happening? Because there is post-binding receptor mediated transduction problem. Okay, after binding to the receptor, insulin is not working properly. There is problem in the signal mediation. Okay, so what is happening? Glucose uptake is not properly occurring in the tissues. Okay, so there is compensatory hyperinsulinemia, means more and more production of insulin, right? So there is hyperinsulinemia. So what is happening? Due to hyperinsulinemia and insulin resistance, there is type 2 diabetes mellitus. Patient may have in the long run type 2 diabetes mellitus. Okay, impaired glucose tolerance, and she may have hypertension, dyslipidemia, cardiovascular disease. These are all long-term health consequences. Okay. Next pathophysiology is excess of androgen. So you have to understand why there is excess of androgen. Two important factors which I've already discussed in the previous slides, that is insulin and LH. Both are increasing. So this has impact on the ovarian theca cell. On the ovarian theca cell it works, and there is increased production of androgens. So ovarian theca cell is producing more and more androgens. So what are those androgens? One is testosterone, another is androstenedione. Okay, these are two important androgens which are being released. So peripherally these androgens are being converted into estrone by the action of enzyme aromatase. So androgen is the main culprit. You have to remember, in PCOS androgen is the main culprit. So next pathophysiology is sex hormone binding globulin. What is it? Why it is so much important? Sex hormone binding globulin. It is a glycoprotein produced in liver, which basically binds to most of the sex steroid. So only 1% remains free in the blood or serum. So if there is decrease in the level of sex hormone binding globulin, so what happens? There is increase in the androgen levels. Okay, the active androgen level or free testosterone level increases, which is responsible for androgenic, hyperandrogenic clinical factors. Okay, understood? So in addition to hyperandrogenism, low sex hormone binding globulin is also responsible for impaired glucose tolerance, and it may develop type 2 diabetes mellitus and GDM. Next pathophysiology is anovulation. Anovulation means what? Ovulation is not occurring properly. So why ovulation is not occurring? Because ovulation is not occurring, that's why menstrual cycle is irregular. Okay? There is anovulation or oligoovulation. Why it is happening? What is the main culprit? Anyone volunteer? Anyone? Do you have any idea? Slide is written. You can tell. Okay. The number one is that there is abnormal GnRH pulse release. So what happens? There is abnormal gonadotropin release also. So what is happening? There is increased LH with respect to the FSH. FSH is responsible for follicular growth, which you require in the proliferative phase. If there is not any proper follicular growth, what will happen? Dominant follicle will not occur, will not happen. So ovulation is basically hampered. Another problem is increase in the intra-ovarian level of androgens. Increase androgen level. So much androgen is being produced. So what happens? Due to increased ovarian androgen level, the follicles become atretic. It basically does not respond well to the FSH. So follicle growth is not occurring. So what happens? The follicles become atretic and there is no proper ovulation. So there is menstrual irregularity. Means amenorrhea, patient will suffer from amenorrhea, oligomenorrhea, and after that prolonged bleeding. Okay, so this is a chart. You can see the diagram. Okay, sometimes the exam comes, what is the pathophysiology, you can draw this diagram, so it will be easier for you to explain. And see, first of all, what is that? Hypothalamus. From hypothalamus, what is being released? That is GnRH. There is problem in the pulsatile release in the GnRH. So it acts on the pituitary. What happens? Increase LHS to FSH ratio. So that gonadotropins act on the ovarian theca cells. What happens? There is excess of androgen. This androgen is basically the culprit of whatever happens in a PCO patient, right? So what are all the impacts because of excess of androgen? Androgen acts on adipose tissue. Okay? In adipose tissue, what it can cause? It can cause insulin resistance. Insulin resistance in turn causes more and more increase in androgen levels. So this is a basically vicious cycle. And excess of ovarian androgen level, what it will happen? Follicular atresia. Because of follicular atresia, there is anovulation and amenorrhea. Proper menstruation is not occurring. And next, peripherally there is increased androgen level, which has been converted into estrone by the action of aromatase. What it is causing on the uterus? It is causing endometrial hyperplasia. Prolonged estrogen level is causing endometrial hyperplasia. Okay? And on the skin, what is happening on the skin? There is some changes, specific changes because of hyperandrogenism. You can also call it clinical hyperandrogenism. Clinically it is visible. First one is hirsutism. Okay, I will explain it later on. Hirsutism. Then acne. Then acanthosis nigricans. Another one problem is that metabolic syndrome. What are the metabolic syndrome? Dyslipidemia, hypertension, cardiovascular disease. Okay, some patients are obese because of insulin resistance. So these are all the problems, and type 2 diabetes mellitus. These are long-term consequences. And another one is endometrial hyperplasia, or she may have in the long run complication of endometrial cancer. So we have to keep in mind. Okay, next the signs and symptoms. Suppose a patient has come to the OPD. How will the patient represent? What are the signs? First and foremost is the menstrual dysfunction. Okay, so there is an irregularity in the menstruation. Menstrual cycle becomes irregular. So what kind of menstrual irregularity she may have? Amenorrhea or oligomenorrhea. What do you mean by amenorrhea? Cessation of menstruation for 3 months. Okay. And what is oligomenorrhea? Less than 8 cycles a year. Okay. So amenorrhea to oligomenorrhea. So why it is happening? I have also already explained that there is no ovulation. So if there is no ovulation, what will happen? Corpus luteum formation is not happening. So corpus luteum produces what? Progesterone. So progesterone, endogenous progesterone is required for normal shedding of the endometrium, which is not happening. So there is unopposed estrogen level for prolonged time. And at a point of time, what will happen? There will be profuse bleeding, shedding of the endometrium, unsupported endometrium gets shed. So she will have heavy menstrual bleeding. Okay, so understood why it is happening? And another cause of amenorrhea may be elevated androgens. Elevated androgens directly acts on the endometrium. It causes hypoplasia. So that is another type of amenorrhea. Okay, so these are the problem. So basically, when we will stamp the patient as a PCOS, suppose a girl comes at the age of 14 years. Okay, her menarche started just a year back, means at 13 years of age. Will you stamp the patient as PCOS? So you have to wait for some time because irregular cycle is there for first 2 to 4 years. So until and unless the girl is of 18 years, we will delay the diagnosis. We will keep follow up with the patient, but we will not stamp the patient as PCOS. We will wait. We will monitor the patient. Maybe the cycle regularizes after some years because there is immature HPO axis. Proper functioning of the HPO axis requires some time after menarche. So you have to wait. Okay. So next is hyperandrogenism. What is hyperandrogenism? Basically, there is increased androgen levels. It can be detected biochemically also, means by doing the blood test, or clinically. Most of the patient basically present clinically. So what kind of clinical hyperandrogenism you may face? Hirsutism, you know, acne, and androgenic alopecia is very rare, may sometimes be found. Okay, and other hyperandrogenic factors, symptoms which are generally not found in PCO patient, that is virilization. You have to know the term. What is virilization? There is increased muscle mass, voice deepening, and clitoromegaly, but these are not present in PCO patient. So you have to look for other diagnosis. Okay, differential diagnosis. So if virilization is there, then you have to look for any androgenic producing tumor in the ovary or adrenal glands. Okay. So what is hirsutism? What do you mean by hirsutism? It is defined as coarse, thick, dark terminal hairs distributed in male pattern. মানে হচ্ছে মেল প্যাটার্নে হচ্ছে হেয়ার ডিস্ট্রিবিউশন হচ্ছে, ঠিক আছে, সেটাকে হার্সুটিজম বলা হয়। থিক ডার্ক কোর্স সেটা বেসিক্যালি ফিমেলে পাওয়া যায় না, কিন্তু মেল প্যাটার্নের ডিস্ট্রিবিউশন হচ্ছে। তো সেই এরিয়াসগুলো কোথায় আছে? একটা হচ্ছে চিন, সাইড বার্নস, আপার লিপ, ওকে, দেন লোয়ার অ্যাবডোমেন, লিনিয়া অ্যালবা. These are all the areas. So PCOS account for 70 to 80% of hirsutism. আর কি কারণ হতে পারে? What are all the reasons? Idiopathic hirsutism, okay, or any drugs. She may be taking some drugs which is responsible for hirsutism. You have to inquire for that. So history is very important. Okay. And hirsutism has to be distinguished from hypertrichosis. What is hypertrichosis? It is generalized increase in lanugo, that is soft, lightly pigmented hair associated with some medicines or malignancy. Okay. So see, this is a picture. That is a facial hirsutism. Okay. And this is male pattern distribution of hair. What is the pathophysiology of hirsutism? Elevated androgen level. Okay, there is elevated androgen level which is causing hirsutism. So in the hair follicle, the testosterone gets converted into dihydrotestosterone by 5-alpha reductase enzyme. So there is increased activity in such PCO patient. Okay, so this hair gets irreversible converted into the dark villous terminal hair, coarse hair distribution in the female. So what are the common areas which I have already discussed? These are upper lip, chin, sideburns, chest, linea alba, lower abdomen. Okay, these are all androgen sensitive areas. So next is acne. Most of the females are suffering from this acne problem because of this excess of androgen levels. Why it is happening? The pathogenesis of acne vulgaris is blockage of the follicular opening by hyperkeratosis, sebum overproduction, proliferation of commensal propionibacterium, acnes, and inflammation. So there is excess of sebum production because of increase in the testosterone level. So it gets blocked, inflamed, and causing acne. Okay, so this is the main problem. because of this acne is occurring. Excess of sebum production is also there. So treatment will be accordingly. How will you treat this patient? You have to reduce the sebum production. So you have to reduce the androgen level. Okay. Next is alopecia. This is very rare occurring in PCOS. You have to look for other diagnosis. You have to do thyroid function level test, or she may have other disease also. You have to look for that, like anemia, chronic illness. Maybe you have to look for other cause also. Okay. Insulin resistance. I have also already explained there is insulin resistance. So although obesity is known to exacerbate insulin resistance, but lean PCO patient can also be insulin resistance. Okay, because of insulin resistance, what will happen? The patient may suffer from impaired glucose tolerance and type 2 diabetes mellitus. The feature of hyperandrogenism. It is occurring in the skin. So what is the skin condition? It is characterized by thickened gray-brown velvety plaques seen in the flexure areas. Basically at the nape of the neck, axilla, inflammatory creases like and waist and groin. So this is a cutaneous marker of what? Increased insulin resistance, okay, and hyperandrogenism. These are why this is happening, because hyperinsulinemia stimulate keratinocyte and dermal fibroblast growth. So that produce this specific characterized skin changes, okay. Impaired glucose tolerance and type 2 diabetes mellitus. These are actually long-term consequences, okay, in PCO patient. So we have to check fasting PP glucose every 1 yearly. Dyslipidemia. There is a chance of dyslipidemia. It occurs in 70% of PCOS. So there is increase in the LDL level. This is basically atherogenic lipid. So that's why there is increased chance of cardiovascular disease in PCOS patient. Most of the PCO patients suffer from obesity. You all know, okay? পেশেন্টরা এসে বলে যে আমার ওজন বেড়ে যাচ্ছে, পিরিয়ডের প্রবলেম হচ্ছে, আবার এইখানে এরকম হেয়ার উঠছে এত বেশি। তো এই কমপ্লেনগুলো স্পেসিফিক্যালি এরকম ধরনের কমপ্লেনগুলোই ম্যাক্সিমাম কিন্তু পেশেন্টরা নিয়ে আসে। কারোর আবার সব একই রকম সিমটম বলে না, কেউ আইসোলেটেড সিমটম বলে, কেউ শুধু বলে যে আমার শুধু পিরিয়ডের প্রবলেম হচ্ছে, কেউ আবার বলবে যে আমার ওজন বেড়ে যাচ্ছে আর একটু একটু এরকম চুল হচ্ছে। মানে সবাই একরকম সিমটমস বলে না। তাহলে আমি কি বলেছিলাম, ওই যে রোটারড্রাম ক্রাইটেরিয়া যেটা বলেছিলাম, ওই তিনটের মধ্যে থেকে যদি যে কোনো দুটো হয় তাহলে আমরা বলবো যে এই পেশেন্টের পিসিও আছে। এই জন্য তিনটে ক্রাইটেরিয়া দেওয়া হয়েছে, ঠিক আছে। সো basically what type of obesity the patient may have? She may have android obesity, মানে central obesity, okay. So these are all the risk factor for cardiovascular disease and predicts insulin resistance, means the patient is suffering from insulin resistance problem. So there is increase in the bioavailable testosterone and it increases androgen levels, okay. So because of this there is ovulatory dysfunction, menstrual irregularity and all other features of the hyperandrogenism. Obstructive sleep apnea. This basically occurs in obese PCOS. Obstructive sleep apnea, okay. Metabolic syndrome and cardiovascular disease, I have already explained. The patient may suffer from insulin resistance, obesity, atherogenic dyslipidemia and hypertension. And these all are associated with type 2 diabetes mellitus, cardiovascular disease, okay. These are all metabolic syndrome. So 45 of PCO patient may face this problem in the later on life with the advancing age, okay. Next long-term consequences or complication the patient may have is endometrial neoplasia. So why endometrial neoplasia or hyperplasia is happening? Because of chronic unopposed estrogen levels. So estrogen level is increasing and there is no progesterone level. That's why the patient is continuously on unopposed estrogen level. So endometrium is suffering. That's why the patient may suffer from endometrial hyperplasia and endometrial cancer. Okay. So if the patient is having AUB, so suppose the patient is having abnormal uterine bleeding before the age of 45 years. So ACOG recommends biopsy in case of PCO patient. Okay, because she has a high risk of having endometrial hyperplasia or cancer. And in other patients, you may do it after 45 years of age. Okay. So endometrial hyperplasia or neoplasia can occur in a patient in age less than 45 years of age. Other complication is infertility. Patient may suffer from infertility. Why? Because there is no ovulation. Proper ovulation is not occurring. That's why the patient may suffer from infertility. Pregnancy loss. Patient may suffer early miscarriages. Why? The exact etiology is not known, but it is said that in this case there is LH hypersecretion or insulin resistance. So this may be one of the cause. The complication, there may be complication of pregnancy also, like she may suffer from GDM, gestational diabetes mellitus. She may suffer from pregnancy-induced hypertension, preterm birth or perinatal mortality. So these are all complications related to pregnancy, okay, and infertility. Psychological health, she may suffer from psychological health problem because of menstrual irregularity. She is becoming obese, so self-esteem problem is getting, okay, there. Depression, she may suffer from depression. So how will you diagnose? How will you proceed for a case? So you have to understand if the patient is coming with amenorrhea. Suppose she missed her cycle. First of all, what you will have to do? You will do a urine pregnancy test. Okay. So do a urine pregnancy test to exclude whether the patient is pregnant or not. Okay. Then what will we do? You will go for some hormonal test. First of all, thyroid stimulating hormone and prolactin levels. So you have to look for these two hormones. Because of problem in these hormones also can cause irregular menstrual cycle. Next is testosterone level. If the total testosterone level is more than 200 nanogram per dl, then you have to look for any ovarian lesion is there or not. So what kind of ovarian lesion? There is any androgen producing tumor or not in adrenal gland or ovary. So you may go for CT or MRI if the level comes like this. Okay. Then DHES, dihydroepiandrosterone sulfate. What is that? This is produced from adrenal gland. So if the level is very high, what is the cutoff level? More than 700 microgram per dl. Then you have to look for any adrenal gland tumor. Adrenal neoplasm is there or not. So you have to go for CT or MRI of the abdomen to rule out any adrenal tumor. Next, you can do gonadotropin levels. LH FSH level, as I have already told, the ratio, if the LH level is higher than the FSH level, then it may cause PCO, okay. And estrogen level also you can see. Fifth one is the 17 alpha hydroxyprogesterone. What is that? This is basically increased in congenital adrenal hyperplasia. So I am discussing all the differential diagnosis of PCO. You have to write in exam if it is asked about the differential diagnosis of PCO and how will you investigate the patient. You have to write all these points, okay. Congenital adrenal hyperplasia. It may be complete or partial deficiency of an enzyme, that is 21 hydroxylase or frequently 11 hydroxylase. What will happen in that case? In adult onset congenital adrenal hyperplasia, there is increase in 17 OHP, that is more than 200 nanogram per ml. Okay. Next, you can do AMS level. AMS level is basically done in patients who want pregnancy. Okay, who want pregnancy. AMS level is increased. Why it is increased? Because there is increase in the antral and preantral follicles. Cortisol level. Cortisol level is not done in all the patients, but if you suspect the patient is having such kind of problem like moon phases or abdominal stria, then you can go for this. What happens? Two type of problem there is. One is Cushing syndrome, another is Cushing's disease. So in Cushing's disease, what happens? There is prolonged exposure to elevated levels of either endogenous or exogenous glucocorticoids. Okay. In Cushing's disease, there is acetylcholine secretion from the pituitary tumor. So these are the two conditions where there is increased cortisol level. And next you can do fasting PP or 2-hour glucose tolerance test to look for whether the patient is suffering from type 2 diabetes mellitus or not. Endometrial biopsy, I have already discussed. If the patient is suffering from AUB in age older than 45 years, you will definitely go for endometrial biopsy. But if the patient is obese or has history of PCO, you can go for endometrial biopsy in earlier age than 45 years. Okay. Sonography, you will have to do it because you have to look for polycystic ovaries is there or not. So if there are more than 12 small cysts, that is 2 to 9 millimeter in diameter, or increased ovarian volume, that is more than 10 ml. So this is the feature of polycystic ovaries. Even if one ovary is affected, then you can stamp it as PCO ovary. Okay, one or both the ovaries. See, this is the diagram. This is a transvaginal sonography diagram. So you can do transabdominal sonography also, or you can do transvaginal sonography. In unmarried patient, we prefer transabdominal sonography. Okay, so you can see the peripherally arranged follicles. Okay, so there are more than 10 follicles, and these are all 2 to 9 millimeter in diameter. So you can say this is a PCO ovary. Okay, the treatment of choice. How will you treat the patient? Treatment is always individualized. So you cannot treat all the patient in similar way. Suppose an unmarried girl has come to you with menstrual irregularity. So you have to regularize the menstrual cycle. So you have to give combined oral contraceptive pill. So if a married patient comes to you and she is complaining of infertility, she is not been able to conceive for more than 2 years. So what will you do? You will go for ovulation induction because there is an ovulation. You cannot give her combined oral contraceptive pill. So treatment is always individualized. You have to look for what is the patient complaining and what does the patient wants. Whether she wants pregnancy, whether she wants to regularize her cycle, whether she is having excessive hirsutism. Okay, so you have to look for the patient's complaint. Then you have to diagnose the patient. Then you have to treat the patient according to the goals. Okay. So first treatment we can give is conservative. What is conservative treatment? To whom you can do? Basically those who have regular cycle, means 8 to 12 cycles per year and has mild hyperandrogenism. What we will tell the patient? You will tell the patient to modify the lifestyle. What is the modification? Do some diet modification, okay, and exercise so that weight is under control. So modest weight loss can be explained to the patient. So it will reduce the insulin resistance and hyperandrogenism. So patient will not complain such menstrual irregularity then. And next treatment of choice in case of oligo and anovulation. Suppose a patient has come to you with complaint of menstrual irregularity. She is not having periods for 3 months, 4 months or 1.5 months, and the patient is unmarried, or the patient is married but she does not want pregnancy. Then what will you do? You have to give some hormonal treatments. What is the first line of hormonal treatment in those patients? Combined oral contraceptive pill. Okay. So what is the mechanism of action? In combined oral contraceptive pill, what is the benefit? How it acts? It basically suppresses the gonadotropin release by acting on the pituitary. So there is decrease in the LH level and androgen level. Simultaneously, androgen level production from the ovary gets decreased. So what will happen? It will decrease the androgen level. Another what will be happening? The estrogen component increases the sex hormone binding globulin levels, which is important for reducing the free testosterone level. And another is progestin component, which antagonize the proliferative endometrium, which is required for normal shedding of the endometrium, normal menstruation. So progesterone antagonizes that proliferative endometrium. So cycle becomes regular. This is the benefit of combined oral contraceptive pill. Suppose we cannot give combined oral contraceptive pill to the patient. Suppose there is contraindication, some problem. Suppose she is suffering from malignant hypertension or other cardiovascular risk factors. So you cannot give combined oral contraceptive pill because of the estrogen components. And then what you can do? You can give cyclically progesterone. Okay, 3 to 4 months you can give. So day 15 to day 25 you can give progesterone. So withdrawal bleeding will happen. Okay. Then next what you can give? Insulin sensitizing agents. One of the commonest drug you know is metformin. So when metformin can be used, but this drug is not FDA approved. This is basically used along with clomiphene. Clomiphene citrate is a ovulation induction drug. So in case of clomiphene resistant patient, it can be added. Okay, and metformin is responsible for decreasing the androgen level. So this is one of the benefit. It can be given in both lean and obese patient. Okay. Then what is the treatment of hirsutism? One common drug you all know, combined oral contraceptive pill, as I have already discussed, that is given in a cyclical way. So it can be also used in case of hirsutism. It decreases the androgen level. I have already explained the mechanism of action. So it requires almost 6 to 12 months. You have to give a dose of 6 to 12 months for improving the clinical symptoms. Okay. Next, what you can do? You can give 5 alpha reductase inhibitors. We do not give it so much, but it can be given. Okay, 5 milligram of finasteride can be given. Another is a cream, eflornithine hydrochloride. This is one type of cream. What is this? It can be topically applied for twice daily, and it is an irreversible inhibitor of ornithine decarboxylase. What ornithine decarboxylase does? It helps in hair follicle cell division. So it slows the hair growth. So it can be given to such patients, but you have to give it for 4 to 8 weeks continuously. But this is not a permanent method. You have to use some other method also. Next, you can give androgen receptor antagonist. But this is not FDA approved and it has some side effects. What are the side effects? There is problem of menstrual irregularities. The patient will have menstrual irregularities. The name is spironolactone. Okay, it can be given at a dose of 50 to 100 milligram twice daily. But problem is menstrual irregularity. And another problem is if the patient conceives, if the fetus is male, so there is problem in external genitalia formation. So if the patient is likely to conceive, so this type of drug cannot be given. It is better not to give. Okay. Next, hair removal. You all know hair removal techniques. What is that? Depilation. Depilation is one of the hair removal technique, like shaving. Shaving basically removes the hair from above the skin surface. So this is not a permanent method. This is a temporary method. Shaving can be done. Next is epilation. Epilation basically removes the entire hair shaft and root. What are these techniques? These techniques are waxing, threading, plucking, but these are all temporary method. Permanent method are there, electrolysis and laser treatment. These are permanent treatment. Okay. And next, patient is suffering from acne. So main motive was to reduce the androgen level. So that has already been done with the combined oral contraceptive pill. Okay, and you can also give spironolactone or 5-alpha reductase inhibitors, but we much more prefer combined oral contraceptive pill. Okay, these have added benefits in other symptoms also. That's why we go for combined oral contraceptive pill. And some topical treatment you can also give, like creams like topical retinoids combined with antimicrobial therapy or benzoyl peroxide. Okay, in case of acanthosis nigricans, why it is happening? Because of insulin resistance or hyperinsulinemia. And why hyperinsulinemia is happening? Because of hyperandrogenism. So you have to decrease the androgen level. And another drug is metformin. You can also give metformin for reducing the insulin resistance. And surgical therapy. We don't do surgical therapy in all the patients. Laparoscopic ovarian drilling is one of the surgical therapy. It is done in those patients who wants pregnancy, who wants to conceive, where ovulation induction drugs have failed. So the surgeon may go for laparoscopic ovarian drilling. This basically reduces the ovarian androgen levels. Okay. So another thing which I have not written, that is infertility. In case of infertility, how will you treat the PCO patient? You have to give ovulation induction drugs. Okay, this will induce ovulation. So problem is there with the ovulation. If ovulation induction drugs fail, some patients land up in IVF, in doing in vitro fertilization. That is next topic, that is higher level of study. So thank you. Okay, so anyone volunteer what is the diagnostic criteria in PCO? Rotterdam criteria, can anyone tell? এত তো পড়ালাম, কি একজন ভলেন্টিয়ার কর। ডায়াগনস্টিক ক্রাইটেরিয়া অফ পিসিও কোয়েশ্চেনে কিন্তু আসে, হ্যাঁ কোয়েশ্চেনে আসবেই আসবে, ইভেন ভাইভাতেও আসে। তিনটে ক্রাইটেরিয়া যেটা আমি বলেছিলাম, এটা কিন্তু এক্সামে আসবেই আসবে, ঠিক আছে? PCOS is basically a diagnosis of exclusion. Any two of the three, মানে তিনটের মধ্যে যে কোনো দুটো থাকলে তাহলে আমরা রোটাড্রাম ক্রাইটেরিয়া হিসাবে স্ট্যাম্প করতে পারি যে পেশেন্টের পিসিও আছে। সেই তিনটে ক্রাইটেরিয়া কি কি? ফার্স্ট হচ্ছে ক্লিনিক্যাল অর বায়োকেমিক্যাল হাইপারঅ্যান্ড্রোজেনিজম, সেকেন্ড অলিগো অর অ্যানোভুলেশন, থার্ড পলিসিস্টিক ওভারিজ। সেটা কি করে ডায়াগনোসিস হবে? বাই ডুইং আল্ট্রাসাউন্ড। ইউ ক্যান ডু TAS or TVS. Okay,